Tenacious Recovery, the podcast. Sam, take it away, buddy.
So I guess how long we've been talking about doing this, Joe? Maybe like only a couple weeks, but kind of given who you are and what you've done, I've always thought you'd be like a really great guest for this.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. You're very well spoken. You've got a great story, and I think professionally, you bring something really refreshing into the space that we all choose to work in.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll introduce Joe Owens.
I
Joe,
appreciate
how's it going, buddy?
It's going well. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate
Cool.
you guys
Appreciate
having
you
me.
making the ride. I know you're coming in from Pennsylvania because we're recording here in the think tank in Sewell, New Jersey. So I appreciate you taking the ride over and coming to see us.
Well, like I said, this is like a homecoming for me. My parents live in this area, and I'm kind of from this area, so it's cool, like kind of like a full circle moment.
Cool.
I'm alcoholic and an addict. My name's Joey.
Hey, Joey.
It's cool. It's cool for me to get to be able to kind of do this with you guys, you know, because again, literally the beginning of my darker years that stretched from probably 17 till I finally got sober at 30. A lot of that started
Good long career.
right
That
here
is
in
nice
this
career.
area.
Bro, that's a stretch, dude.
Yeah.
13-year career.
That's-
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a lot of them make it that long, especially.
No, and I was fortunate. I was fortunate too, for sure. You know,
You're opiate user, right?
I am
Yeah,
absolutely.
Brody.
I'm a straight up addict, right? Like where I have spurts of my history where, like, I remember I ran on meth for like 7 weeks,
Oh.
and like it was nuts because I was an addict. I was an addict by this point for a good like 6-7 years. And I remember like where it took me years, where opioids like took me years to get to, meth took me there by like lunch. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like just running on meth and you know, I say like my first love is always opioids. It always comes back to
That was like my
to
experience
fentanyl
with
and
crack
stuff like
cocaine.
that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Like
with
I had done
alcohol.
cocaine a
I
million
did
times.
all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
but alcohol was my I had an absolute love affair with alcohol.
With boozing. Yeah.
Yep. But I would do like meth, cocaine, other stuff.
Sure.
But I always came back to alcohol.
Well, I always found that I used cocaine just so I could drink more. I always told someone I'm not going to eat a peanut butter sandwich. Dude. I need
that.
some jelly. You know what I mean?
I did that with meth myself,
Yeah.
so I could drink more, and all of a sudden that shit wears out.
Yeah.
At 3 a.m,
Oh, yeah.
and now you're like, you're damn near falling over.
Yeah, you're like stumbling across
Oh, my
Broad
God.
Street, brother. Yeah.
Your eyes are shut.
Yeah.
You're sleeping in your brain, but you're
sure.
walking.
No, but it is funny. Like
crazy.
a lot of people I know, avid opiate users, you know what I mean? Which is don't get me wrong, it's frantic, it's messy.
Oh, yeah.
It gets ugly. But the
Sure.
second you throw a speedball of any capacity into the mix, like they just become deranged.
Yes.
Like your life just melts so much faster.
Yeah.
And it just looks
That's
like
what it was.
you are the person that you see on the corner that you're like, yo, that guy
Something
needs-
ain't right with that guy.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
Like you
100%.
become that so quickly when the wild speedball comes in. Meth for how long? 7 weeks?
At least 7 weeks, yeah. And it
Wow.
was such a dichotomous use for me. It was so opposite of what I was used to. Not just because of the effects. It was like, I was always, and part of my story is I did my best to control the narrative, right? Like you didn't catch me in yesterday's clothes. You didn't catch me
Right.
unshowered.
Right.
I don't look as husky when I'm out there, granted, but like I still like would go to the gym and
Right.
and I'd maintain appearances, right?
That's pretty crazy.
Well,
when you
that's
think
what
about
I
it.
felt like I had to, because I'm not a resourceful, like I'm a manipulative and a conniving, addict, if you will.
course.
But like I'm not like I never done the homeless thing, right? Like I'm gonna turn on the charm and get the young lady whom I'm gonna sleep on her couch for until she realizes what's
Till
going
Thursday.
on. Right, exactly.
Yeah,
until
yeah.
somebody
Then you
else,
gotta
until I
go.
get paid again.
That was
until
very
someone,
similar, yeah.
Right. So like it all kind of, and like, I told you gentlemen before we started recording, I'm not much of the linear storyteller as it results of my experience, but like that's kind of for me like how I remember it beginning, right? So I'm somebody who, I'm from this area. I was a very privileged kid growing up in the sense that my parents are happily married, and I had the afforded private education for high school, and I earned a football scholarship. But like looking back in like high school, my first drink was probably middle school, probably 7th grade middle school was like my first in a basement, not unlike this one,
yeah,
right?
sure,
like
sure.
drinking. And for years when I was out there, I tried to remember, like, all right, like, what do they tell you, right? Like, get to the root of your problem, right? I never could do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
Oh, I could.
I don't remember the drink making me feel this sense of superiority. I don't
Yeah.
remember, you know, I always had friends. I was the athlete. I was the jock. I was the kid that everyone liked, and not in a manipulative way, just in a genuine way. So I didn't know why my life went in such a direction until I read the page in the big book that says men and women drink essentially because they like the effects produced by alcohol.
Yeah.
Fucking
Boom.
Yeah, right. That's
boom.
That's
like
what it
that
is.
was for me, right? Because I didn't need to, at that point when I read that, and that was years after me be even in the fellowships of AA,
Right.
NA, and the likes, is like I didn't realize that, oh, that doesn't mean I didn't have to like suffer any sort of trauma.
Sure.
That didn't mean that I had to have experienced this like really cataclysmic event in my life that said run to drugs and alcohol. And like
Yeah.
when I think back, like I had small amounts of them, right? Like not a lot of 18-year-olds are falling asleep blackout drunk on the Atlantic City Expressway and crashing their car into the trees, right?
Yeah.
Like there were certainly those experiences that now I know they were traumatic, but I didn't have them. And I already early on, so you mentioned booze, right? Like you come back, I drank alcoholically from the very beginning. You know what I mean? I remember being a 16-year-old bringing a 12-pack to a friend of mine's basement.
Right.
And he's like, I don't drink. I'm like, no, I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
a 16-year-old, right? Like, no, I'm
bringing them for you, bro.
I
I know
appreciate that.
this
but
is
like,
for me,
these
brother.
are mine, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
16 years old.
Oh,
my father's
God.
one of us. He's in recovery, and I remember before he got sober, he came to me. I didn't come from that like.
How old
cool
were you when you got
parents' house.
sober?
My dad got sober 7 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So he
Nice.
got sober after 50 years of drinking. I never let an old head tell me they're too old to get it. 'Cause I say my
100%,
dad drank
dude.
50 years and got it.
Dude, I put a 72-year-old in
Love that.
treatment
Love that.
about a year and a half ago.
I love that. But
Yeah.
my dad, I'll never
And
forget.
he's sober?
I believe he still is. Yes.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. My dad came to me again. They weren't like the "it's cool if it's here" type of parents. They weren't the cool parents or whatever. They were careful, right? Understandably. But I'll never forget. They did let a few of my brother's friends. I'm the youngest of two. My brother's a year older than me. They let a few of my brother's friends, including my brother, and I drink at my brother's high school graduation party. This would have been back in 07. And my dad came to me the next day. I can see it, picture it in my head. He was like, "You scared me yesterday because you drink like I do."
Yeah.
He said, every time I looked over, you had a new beer in your hand. And that was my introduction to, okay, I am unlike others.
Yeah.
I do have this tendency
There's something
to,
up.
there is
Right.
something up for sure. And then the bringing the 12-pack to a buddy's house who doesn't drink, right? Like
Exactly.
those
Of
types of
course.
things. So over time, I've like developed where I've identified like my causality, if you will, right? Like, and one of them I certainly attribute to just that was how I loved to drink. And then another, and I thought of this when I was listening to some of your guys' episodes, like in getting ready for this. Our boy Carfy, right? Like kind of how he experienced and explained his college experience.
Oh, yeah.
I could relate so much to that. And when I think about why, it's not like to blame, but like I'm 34 years old and very much grew up in like that American Pie, Van Wilder
Sure. Of
course.
type of like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So like that had a profound effect on me and I didn't realize, right? Like I went to a private high school where, yes, I was afraid to go intoxicated. I wasn't the kid getting drunk in the parking lot or high in the bathroom. Like
right.
I was the athlete, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
it's
when
millennial drinking culture. Is
For
what
sure.
it is. Yeah.
But when I went
It's
to
true, yeah.
college, I was so ill prepared for
Really?
college. Oh my God. Yeah.
Like,
I'm the quintessential Italian
academically
son
or-
where mom did everything for me,
Ah,
right?
I
So like I
gotcha.
was very
Yeah.
ill prepared to be on my own first
Right.
and
Yeah.
foremost. But I reported a month before the rest of the students as a fall athlete, right? Playing football. So I'm there with the girl volleyball players, the girl soccer players.
Gotcha.
First night of college, I'm like, how much can I drink and who can I sleep with? Like
Yeah.
I swear that was my
Where did you
mentality
go?
night one. Catholic University of America in
Oh,
Washington,
cool.
D.C. Yeah.
Nice.
I was a
Outstanding.
history major, so I was a
Outstanding.
nerd, right? So I loved being in the nation's capital. And it was a
Cool.
it was a D3 football team. Like you didn't eat, sleep, and breathe football like you do at the D1 level.
Right.
It was the perfect balance for me to be able to like live that Van Wilder college experience.
For sure.
And remain just enough. Our boy Carfy, I think he said at 0.0 playing rugby. Like I had,
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah,
I was a
0.
little above that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But still, like it was just, I lasted a year. Like I got through football in the fall. I was a complete mess in the spring, and then I transferred home after just 1 year, and I
You
started.
didn't graduate from there.
Not there.
Oh,
No.
wow.
And that's a whole
Okay.
aspect, and I will get into it. But
Jeez.
I transferred back home, went to Camden County College. At this point, I'm home after 1 year with 1 year of college under my belt. I felt like a failure already.
And you had a full ride, right?
Not a full
Or
ride.
just
I
about?
had more than I should have. Yeah, we'll
Gotcha.
say that.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
D3 school, so they can't give athletic money. They gave me far more academic money than I deserved.
Gotcha. They wanted you to play football.
And I was the fucking kicker. I swear.
No
I was
way.
the kicker? I was the kicker.
But
I got
you don't
recruited
look
to
like
I
a
used
You
to
do not
kicker
look like a
at all.
kicker.
Well, now,
More
no.
like a linebacker.
I played a little quarterback, but I certainly wasn't recruited to play
Dude, you
quarterback.
look like
I
a
was
tight
recruited
end.
to kick.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
I was recruited to, I played soccer my whole childhood. I played football all
Yeah, me
years,
too.
all 4 years of high school, and I could kick the shit out of a football.
Soccer was my game,
held
too.
records.
Soccer was my game,
Yeah,
yeah.
I held records in high school. I was a clutch kicker. I had
What's your
several-
longest field goal?
In game 47, in practice 56.
Wow.
So I could boot
Very
it in
nice.
high school. So I
Wow.
could boot it. And I was getting D1 looks, and then I played quarterback. Again, ego, right? Like
Right, sure.
playing quarterback my senior year, because the junior that year, I was one of the captains, right? Proud to say. The junior starting quarterback steps into a hole, sprains his ankle 2 weeks before first game.
Wow.
And we have this kid who went on to play 7 years in the NFL. John Grimes was my running back.
Really?
Played for
No
the Jets,
way.
the Jaguars.
Yeah,
Good guy.
sure.
So he was our running back. So we were about to be good. And quarterback steps into a hole, and literally, it's stories told that in a drunken stupor, our special teams coach called our offensive coordinator and said, "Owens can throw." And he said, "Go fuck yourself. Don't tell me how to run my offense." But
Oh my God.
gave me a shot at playing quarterback, and then really like the ego and the persona had
Of
just
course.
again American Pie type of thing, right?
Yeah,
like where
dude,
now
yeah.
it's I'm dating the head cheerleader, I'm the
Yeah.
starting quarterback.
Mom, they're calling my number.
For
Wow.
sure.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I literally wore
100%.
number 12, which to me is like that
Yeah,
number.
oh, yeah,
you know
of
what I mean?
course.
You wore
And
12?
I wore 12.
That's
and then
funny.
all of which I wore for my dad. My dad's number was 12. But like in there, when all of my kicking practice, my Division I looks fell by the wayside. I went to a Division III school, and I really was so out of control almost from the very beginning.
Did you care?
I did. I really did.
You wanted the D1 look? You didn't just want to
I-
drink? I guess at that point
You
it was all
wanted
the
to do
same.
well where
yes,
you were,
I
right?
never thought, even though I knew I drank problematically, I really never thought my life from that age was going into
Was
problematic
unmanageable.
directions.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't until I came home after that first year of college and I started working at a really nice Italian spot in Westmont. And I'm making way too much money for a 19-year-old
I
living at
gotcha.
home. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I'm working
Oh,
in
yeah.
the restaurant business.
Oh, yeah.
I'm bussing and serving tables at this restaurant. I start making like $300 a night on a good night, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you're making
that fueled
for a
my money. I
19-year-old
did that when I was 7.
That's what I'm saying,
I dropped
like,
out of high school, dude.
to do that, right?
Because
So-
I was making so much money.
$300 a night on a good night, and I'm going home, and my parents are like, "Well, how was work?" So I'm living at home, obviously,
Yeah,
going to community
sure.
college. I'm like, nah, slow night, 130, 140, right? Giving them a little bit to
I
make
was
me feel
just
like
gonna
I'm an
say, you
adult,
gotta-
right?
you gotta break them off a piece.
Right, pocket in 160 of money that's nowhere to be traced, all cash. And I'm hanging around with like older crowds who are regulars at PJ's and Poorhouse and
Right.
Tap and all these places, right? So I'm exposed to this drinking culture.
Well, the culture of the service industry co-signs
immediately.
Yeah,
that.
that's
100%.
It co-signs
100%.
getting blackout drunk and
100%.
hanging out till 4 a.m. on Tuesday.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
When every day of the week.
Because you're not going
that's
to
how it
work
was
on
for-
Wednesday until 5 p.m.
It
That's
doesn't
right.
matter.
You know
Or
what
not
I
at
mean?
all.
Or
You know
not
what
at
I
all.
mean?
Right.
That's right.
Yep.
Or you have to be there to open at 11 a.m., but you don't care.
And the
You know what I
time,
mean?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I ain't doing a cloping.
Yeah,
We're
I'll
not
do- I was
closing
red-
that open.
buddy,
Hell
buddy,
no.
listen,
I'm
I
not,
didn't-
I'm not going to sleep.
I did
if
a
that's the
clope and
case.
not having slept for 3 days
Yeah.
once. Yeah.
So like, and this
I was a lunatic.
And the time of year is, well, not time of year rather, but the time in my life is important because this is also 2010, right? So this is like the full boom of the Purdue Pharma crisis,
Of
right?
course.
Like
Oh,
that
yeah.
we know, right? And I've always maintained that, like, if you were born in this Philadelphia area as a whole, right? Like, if you were fortunate enough to be born as I was into like a middle class family, right, where my own money was never impossible to come by, but my parents always were afforded the ability to like break me off 20 for cutting the lawn and
Sure.
stuff like that, right? Like, I look back at my ability to kind of always be resourceful enough to keep a sort of substance in my body because I like the effects produced by
Sure.
alcohol. It just created a perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hooking up with this girl from the restaurant business, and then all of a sudden, like, she introduces me to these things that we used to call Johns around here, right?
That's what we call it.
We used to call them Johns, right? And it was, if you found a good dealer, you got 2 for $45. You
Back
were living,
then,
right?
They're $60 now,
for
dude.
sure, right?
Yeah.
You were living, and you can attribute it to, I thought sex was better on drugs. I thought I was funnier on drugs. I thought my situation and my feelings of failure from college was more tolerable when I'm on drugs. It coincides with the restaurant experience and stuff. But I just get hooked immediately, right? I'm just hooked immediately. I'm in treatment for the first time at 20. I'm breaking into neighbors' houses around 20. I was a real POS where, like, I'd only do the dirtiest of things to people who knew me, loved me, change my diapers and stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Because they're the ones that
if I'm-
forgive you.
For sure. If
Yeah.
I'm going to break into someone's house, it's going to be my neighbor who's going to call my parents, not call the cops. Right. And that sense of, like, manipulation it follows me, you know, for a long time.
Being
you know?
emotionally intelligent like that is a dangerous
Scary.
way for
Oh,
a
yeah.
drug addict or
Scary.
alcoholic, dude. Because you know, like that alone.
Yep.
I would break into my neighbor's house because I knew they would call my
my parents
parents
before the
instead of the
cops.
police is wild.
Yep.
It's almost like you are aware that you'll likely get caught and you still don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care
Yeah.
anyway because
Right.
it's not going to mean
Brother,
anything.
Yeah.
that is a dangerous game.
And, like, it's, you know, and this is my story, obviously, right? But, like, I do believe that there's, you know, a relevance to childhood and all that stuff. My parents I owe them everything. But I know for a fact that when my life went into the direction that it did, it caused a real rift, obviously, between them. My family tree is very different in the sense that my mother's Italian side has probably some, you know, behind closed doors, mental health, substance use stuff, right? Like, father, all Delco Irish, right? So, like,
Wow.
there's a lot of
Nice.
my Irish alcohol. So, like, my father felt a great sense of responsibility and guilt, right?
Oh, for your issue?
Right. And
Yeah, I
my
got
mother
you.
felt more of Italian mother of, like, we can't let our son have a police
See, I
record.
thought you were going to say my
Exactly.
father
Our
felt a
son-
lot
yeah.
of guilt, and my mother wouldn't let that down. I
Not
thought
even.
that's what
Not
you were
even.
gonna say.
It was really. I mean, what I did to them mentally for the time I was out was, and my brother had a quick. He's not one of us. My brother had a quick problem, though. I'd say of a couple of years with the same substance. Right, was able to go to an IOP, change his scenery, change his friends, went back to college. Now he's doing absolutely fantastic. I couldn't be more proud of him.
Not one of us.
But he's not one of us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's never done a drug, you know, anymore. But, like, you know, he can drink. He can also have a successful family career and all that stuff. But, like, it was present in my house in multiple ways at this point, right? Like, my father was still drinking. I was just beginning to kind of do the real elaborate that I was. And my brother at this point had already kind of cleaned up his act from those couple of years. And yeah, the timing of this, right? Like, the availability of that substance specifically, right? Like, those Percocets, Johns, opioids, oxys, whatever, like, they were so in plethora here where
Oh, yeah.
it was
They were
just-
everywhere.
They were everywhere,
Yeah.
right? And when you are working in cash business like I do,
Right.
all I need to do is find one guy who gets high like I do at work. Which of us has the money?
And
you
you're
bring
good.
them to work, and then the other will just break off our tips at the end of the night, right? Like, and we'll square up and we'll be even. So that went on for a while, right? And the consequences were there. I mentioned that, you know, I got into an accident on the way down to the shore one night in a blackout. I caught a DUI by this point, not even because I got caught drinking, really. Like, I admitted to having a beer in my own neighborhood to a cop who pulled me over for, like, I don't even remember why he exactly pulled me over. I admitted to having a beer and I got an underage DUI, right? Like, so I had it coming, right? But it's like, that was the beginning to my introduction into, like, the treatment world, right? Because I had to go in compliance to IOP
course.
and shit.
Yeah.
And I can't pee clean in IOP, and I'm there 8 weeks in a row. And it's
Right.
like, oh, I got an issue. So I went to my first treatment center at 20. And in total, right? And for me, honestly, 20 to 29 when I got sober, series of extreme failures, graduating from opioids to heroin took me about 5 or 6 years.
That's wild.
Yeah. Well,
That's
again, the money was
that's
never,
a good run.
for
Like,
sure.
you're
The
just a
money was
sober
never not
bartender,
there.
weren't you?
Sober
Yeah.
bartender, whatever
Same,
I got to
yeah.
do. And I've tried to find purpose in this point in so many different ways.
Were you living at home the whole time?
I was living at home most of the time. I was living in and out a lot of recovery houses.
But
I
always
had,
going back home. They never told you couldn't come home.
Always, 100%. That's a huge part of my story.
Well, that's why
too.
it took you so long
For
to get
sure,
sober.
100%, right?
An Italian
Plus-
mother will literally love her child
So
into
it's
the grave.
it's a beautiful almost
Sadly.
euphemism of like where my life went, because at the end, the coming and bringing me like a pound of macaroni and gravy with meatballs like to my
Right.
recovery houses
Right.
and feeding me for the week with groceries became like, here's a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, get the hell off my porch. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and
Yeah.
that for me was huge. Like I needed to have that happen. But in those, in that 10 years, like from 20 to when it finally did happen, like the graduation was slow and progressive from pills to heroin. There's a lot of, I should have so many federal records, including, grand theft. I had a cousin through marriage try and set me up in Pittsburgh, running a company of his out there. Was out there for 6 months, stole 35,000. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Like just those types of things.
Correct.
People trying to look me out and like, Joe needs to get out of Philly, right? Tried to go back to Catholic U a year after I came home, just because I felt like I needed to go redeem myself.
Yeah.
Did a semester, failed, and came home.
Oh, my
right?
God.
So it was just like a whole lot. And for me, the image was huge, right? I mentioned like the outer image, right, with the haircuts and the gym and all that stuff. But it was also like, I'm not on social media anymore except for LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And it's because I believe in like this really like toxicity to my engagement with LinkedIn and Facebook and all these others, where like I remember being 25 and high off my ass and looking at people getting their, degrees and getting families and buying houses. And
Could be depressing.
oh my God,
You know.
it was crazy. It was
Sure.
crazy depressing. So I kept returning to this idea of like, I'm gonna finish college, right? Funny side story. I failed my senior seminar at Rowan, right up the street from here. I failed my senior seminar from Rowan 3 times because I could not complete the thesis paper that you have to write.
Oh.
Only the 3rd time, I was so ashamed to tell my family again that I failed that I never told them.
You told them you did it. Yeah.
Told them I did it.
Did
Dude,
you- did you
yes,
walk?
gentlemen? Oh, yes.
Oh.
I went to the graduation and
No
walked.
way.
They had the graduation party for me. I went to Jamaica at the time
Oh
with
my
and I'm not
God.
proud of any of this. We're
Yeah,
all
of
sitting here
course,
with big
of
shit
course.
eating grin on our face.
Of course.
But like in
It's
reality,
funny years later.
100%,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it was like, I think back to like, first of all, I've manipulated and dope fiend every one of those professors on that stage in the School of History that I graduated from Rowan, because I tell them I was an addict and I didn't have my paper done or blah, 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 right? Like playing
You
the
would
game.
tell them you were an addict?
Oh, 100%. And then the last
wow.
professor whose class I failed was the last one to shake my hand. And she was this sweet grandmother looking figure, all of 4'5". And she gave me this look of like, what the hell are you doing here?
She knew you didn't
Oh, she knew.
graduate.
Oh, she had to.
Oh
She
my
definitely,
God.
no one else really
She
did.
failed you.
And like, if you don't know, undergraduate graduations, anybody can apply to graduate because
Right.
you do that 6 months before you're actually done.
Right.
So then you give the person at the microphone your name on an index card and they announce it. So I technically had my name announced, but I knew that I didn't graduate, right? So like it's those types of things, you know what I mean? And I look back at that now and I can laugh, but like I really think of that as like, A, you felt so ashamed of yourself that was something you resorted to. And then it's cyclic, right? Because the cycle then only was compounded by the fact that my family believed for this period of time that I had graduated, sent me on a vacation, had a party for me, all these people to whom I still now obviously owe financial amends to. Just the shame.
I forgot about
came-
the checks,
For
dude.
sure.
I
dude.
never had a graduation.
Oh
I never
my
graduated
God.
anything a day in my life.
Dude,
Still to this day.
it was bad. So like it was bad, right? And then just like what it did to my mother the day I eventually just so me like I
How
don't
many years
ever-
later till you told
Oh,
the
it
truth?
was only like 6-7 months. My mother's pretty smart, but like it's I never was one to go to them and say, "Hey, I messed up. I relapsed. I'm out again." Right? Like that. Hindsight, they wished I'd do that.
Sure.
I lied. I lied to them. Obviously,
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
They didn't know when you were getting on. You would hide it.
They did, but they did through like circumstances, right? Like, hey,
Like
we want you
this.
to pay a $50 bill, cell phone bill or something, right? Yeah, I got it, no problem. Or like take a drug test. That was my favorite, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm living at home. So they always knew, and I don't smoke unless I'm getting high. And I've told my friends in sobriety, even since I got sober, if you catch me with a pack of cigarettes, I'm getting high. It's
Yeah.
like, tell.
Oh, gotcha.
So there were always ways that they could tell, but I would always lie to them, essentially. So, you know, I eventually get to fentanyl. I've overdosed probably 10 times in my life.
How many trips to treatment?
In total, about 12.
Okay.
Yeah, 12 in total, 2 DUIs. And fentanyl for me was obviously, you know, it was nearly what took me out. If it weren't for drugs like Narcan, I'm not here.
Yeah.
You know, from front lawns of guys we know, recovery houses that I've lived in,
Correct.
to, you know, on Delsey Drive, I've been Narcan. My most recent one before I got sober was the worst. I fell out behind the wheel driving my car on the Black Horse Pike, nailed a 17-year-old girl and her 2 friends, and, you know, thankfully everybody was okay, right? But like, I'm literally just like dumb luck decisions away from being incarcerated or dead, you know?
Yeah.
So again, in the spirit of like getting to the root, it's like, I have thought in the same spirit of like, well, what was my wake up moment? And it could have been that, but it also could have been a lot of things. You know, for me, it was COVID. That certainly helped. When the world stopped, mine didn't, right? I looked at COVID as like a come up because they weren't taking $5 at the bridge from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm on my way.
yeah,
And I'm
that's
on my
true.
way to get high. You
They
know?
were taking $5.
They weren't
from the
taking
bridge,
5
yeah.
from the bridge, so that was an extra 5. But no, I mean, my brother was about to have his first kid. And, you know, we have lost in this area, you know, I've been to more funerals than I care to admit. And
More funerals and
all of
weddings.
us, easily, right? And,
My generation
you know,
is just really us millennials.
Yeah.
As millennials, dude, we were
It's insane.
ravaged.
It's insane.
Like,
No,
I was
it really
thinking about it
is.
the other day. When was the last time you went to a funeral?
A couple weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I have one coming up now. And it's funny, I was just saying this the other day. Like, there was a time where I was going to a funeral every week.
Every week.
Yeah.
And that stopped.
Yeah.
That's
I have
really
a-
slowed down
Yeah.
because
It has
in reality, I'm not going to say the opioid epidemic is over, but like
certainly shifted.
it's almost like those of us that were gonna get it, got it,
We got it or we died.
or you're down shooting xylazine in your neck on Kensington Avenue, and you've been on
Exactly.
160 milligrams of methadone for the last 3 years,
Yeah.
and
Right.
you're in
And
and
that's-
out of
of
the,
course,
justice,
there's
the
all-
justice
right.
system. Like,
But
they're-
my thing is exactly like, and you know, people would tell me this, right? Like, you know, go to a treatment center and find the 50-year-old heroin addicts. They ain't in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they're not in there. It's all alcohol or, you know, speed or something like that. But
At that
you know,
age, yeah.
So not that I thought that death would ever elude me, right? Like, you know, you have 12 overdoses as I did. Like, you're not that dumb. But my brother, you know, hit me with like, I'm about to have my first kid. And like, you've taken this entire pregnancy that my wife and I have had and you've made it about you like I do. He's like, but worse is like, my son's never going to know you. Like, you're going to be a picture on a mass card
Definitely.
that has September 2nd, 1990 dash whatever day they find you
Right.
dead in Camden,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
and I was like, I can't even argue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't even
It's
argue.
just
So I
reality.
went to a Medicaid sponsored detox. I had nowhere to go. My family at this point was more bread and peanut butter rather than scallopine and meatballs, right?
That's what you needed.
And
Yeah.
I was shipped out to a place in Levittown where I lived for about 18 months in a recovery house. And in that time, even though I had been around the fellowship, like I had gotten into the fellowship, I had gotten exposed to, I just listened to the episode with Woods that you did. I love that you guys did that sort of meeting during that time for guys who
Yes.
didn't, like I too benefited from some, you know, true AAers from that Bucks County area who were like, we need this more than we need to be in a treatment compliance or a legal compliance
Sure.
with this. You know what I mean? So they still had one open meeting that I'd attend one day a week, but I kind of did the things that I needed to do. And I got around people that are still near and dear to my heart today, right? 5 years, 4.5 years later.
good
or
man,
so.
dude.
You know what I'm saying?
Like
that's what I
good
needed.
Man,
100%.
same. I mean,
100%.
listen, I don't think I would. You know, it's funny. I think about what sobriety means to me today because sobriety has nothing to do with me drinking anymore. It really doesn't. I haven't thought about a drink in almost 9 years. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But I'm still very sick. I'm still alcoholically very sick.
Sure.
I have a flawed character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the men in my life that Alcoholics Anonymous have produced
Yeah.
help me address the flawed character.
Yeah.
Continuously.
Yeah.
As I round becoming like I'm a man now.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? I have 3 kids. I have a
Yep,
mortgage. dude, I just signed up for a health savings account.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
Isn't that crazy?
Buddy, even my first 3 or
Isn't
4
that
years
crazy?
of sobriety, I wasn't
Right.
like, you're not taking
Right.
120 from me. You know what I mean? But my daughter broke her arm twice this
Yeah,
year, and
right.
I'm looking at it as I'm in open enrollment. I'm like, this shit is pretty cool.
I should
Well,
probably
savings
have this.
I'm
Right,
like,
right.
this
Yeah.
is pretty solid.
would've
I'm like,
thought?
why have I never done this before?
Right,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Right, yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
But that's only at the guidance of honestly men like Vinny.
Yeah,
like I've
for
known
sure.
Vinny for 6 years,
Yeah.
dude. He knew me when I was like when I only had 2 kids and the
Right.
one was super young, and like I call guys like that when
Yeah.
I'm jammed up.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to say that like I don't love my family, but like
Yeah.
they don't walk in my shoes.
No, and that's,
you know what
and
I'm
that's-
saying?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's huge.
yeah. That one
That's
really
huge.
has nothing to do with the other.
Yeah.
You're calling people for advice for whatever.
Right.
You can't turn to your family for that
Right.
because again, they never walked in your shoes.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I call men who suffer from the same disease as I do because
Yeah.
they understand the thoughts, the self-centered,
Yeah.
ego-driven, feared-up thoughts that live
Yeah.
in my life. Because
Yeah.
that's what alcoholism is to me today.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I learned from everybody, right? Including when I got into the area of our industry that I'm in, right? I've learned from those who have gotten away from their own recovery and stuff. And I do my best today to make a point to not do that. Like I still have a home group. I'm still in service to the Fellowship of AA. Thankfully, my relationship with my family's improved so much, but my dad hosts a 7 a.m. Zoom meeting every day. You probably know him.
Wow.
Yeah, he hosts a 7 a.m.
my
Zoom
God.
meeting every day and has since COVID
Wow.
for
Good
AA.
for him.
And he's a
Like
Clarksboro
on the app?
On Zoom, yeah.
On the app,
and he's
yeah.
and he's a Clarksboro men's home group
That's
member.
cool.
He's a Matt Talbot guy. He doesn't let
He's a
me
Matt
get-
Talbot guy?
He's a Matt Talbot guy. I've been to a couple of retreats
Have
with my
you?
dad at the Malvern
That's
Retreat
cool.
House.
Yeah.
Awesome experience.
Talbot House is awesome.
But
yeah.
like not to say he doesn't let me get far because we all know we have our own autonomy, we make our own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But like my dad could care less about like the rise of my career, right? My dad cares that like my son Salvatore has a dad, right?
That's
My
right,
dad
of
cares
course.
enough to be like,
100%.
you know,
That's the important
seeing you
stuff.
golf twice last week.
Yeah.
How many meetings you hit, right? Like my
Yeah.
dad's
Exactly,
that guy
right.
to
Yeah.
me. You know what I mean?
Unreal.
And I need that. And like my relationship with my dad is gotten so much better because of sobriety, because of us both. But yeah, I mean, like, just I truly have, you know, through my own mistakes and my own decisions, I'm proud to say, like, you know, my first Christmas sober. So I had this awesome professor at Rowan, my last attempt there. Because after I shook hands with the woman who knew I didn't pass, I'll be damned. I went for another redemption.
I was going to ask you about
I went
that.
through for a fourth time redemption, right? And then COVID happened and I started getting high again. So the professor whose class I was in was like, I'm not going to fail you. I'm going to give you an incomplete. So you can
Okay.
come back to me and we can work on this in your own time. From a recovery house, 3-man room, I worked on my thesis paper
Good
with
for you.
4 months sober,
That's
right?
cool.
Again, doing things differently. You know what I mean? And for Christmas that year, I put into like a t-shirt box you'd get from like Macy's or something. I put a completed thesis paper, typed up, printed, and in that box, gave it to my mom for Christmas. She thought she was getting a shirt. She opens it and she knows that it's this paper and this
Wow.
emotion on her face of like,
You
you
did.
did it.
Yeah,
right?
that's
You
right.
did it,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Like
right.
just such a, you know, we talk about like those are the moments that like drugs can't replicate, like much like now having a son and
Yeah,
he's all
that's
about
right.
dad right now, right?
Mhm.
So, like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
you know what
Oh,
I mean?
you're
Like
the king
killing
right
my
now,
wife.
yeah.
Sure.
But like he's loving, you know what I mean? Like those types of things, like that's been for me, like I'm huge on moments, right? Like those are for me like the moments that like you, I don't think about a drink anymore. You know what I
No.
mean? I just spent a whole long weekend in Austin with my in-laws a couple weeks ago, and I'm the only one who's, you know, like us, right? So like
Yep.
they're enjoying themselves, and I get to just enjoy being there. It's
That's
not
right.
about me anymore.
And it works.
And
dude.
it's totally fun. I got
It
to enjoy a
works.
pontoon boat in Austin, Texas, and all this cool stuff that we did, and I got to do it sober. You know, my son gets to have me in his life to like
Right.
do things.
How
that
old
I-
is your boy now?
20 months. So he's a little
Okay,
guy.
so he never, like
Never,
me,
uh-uh.
he never saw you
Much like
impaired.
my wife. Much like my wife. My wife's not one of us. She's from Indiana. She came out here on a travel nurse assignment. She's seen me like that one time because
Oh,
we
she
lived
did?
together for a year.
Ah.
I relapsed probably about 3 years, 8-9 months ago. And I was working in the industry and I had a 4:00 Eagles game. No one will know, right? Can get a couple Stellas
Sure.
and
Oh, you just drank?
and no,
Oh.
that's what I thought I was going to do. And
yeah.
then much like I've been telling all my
Stellas.
friends by this point, 3.5 in, I'm on my way down to get what I want, right? So she came home and obviously knew something wasn't right. And I credit AA for this because she called somebody who's 6'7" and served 6 years downstate, who's very tight in my life, right?
Yeah.
So like the look I seen on this man's face as he's done what he was about to do for me, for a lot of other guys, like, get the hell out of here, you're going to treat. He did that shit to me in my own apartment.
Oh yeah.
Like I came to in my own bed to him at the foot of my bed the day after Christmas 3.5 years ago.
6'7".
Oh, he's a big dude. Yeah. And he looks at me and he's just like, get in the car.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who are you talking to? He was like, stand up. And I'm like, no, bro, I'm getting in the
That's
car.
the best. Yeah.
So like, I mean, just there, right? Like my wife, girlfriend at the time, like she knew that she could call AA, right? Like she called this
That's
person,
huge.
him and his wife, both sick at home day after from Christmas with COVID.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
masks on in the car, drive to my apartment in Bensalem, put me in the car and let me sleep it off that night in their house. And thankfully that's been the last time. So I say I left the herd and then literally the herd like rallied around me. And I needed that. Like I tell people who relapse.
Well,
like,
you created that, bro.
I did.
You put yourself in a position to have that.
To
Because
have
there's
that guy to call.
Buddy, there's a big difference between intervention,
Yeah.
looking like an interventionist
Right.
and a family with letters,
Right,
and intervention looking like
A
you
guy,
waking up to a guy and all he says is stand up
Might
and
as
get
well
in the
be in
car,
his house at
and
that
that's
point.
it.
Yeah,
That's because
yeah,
you
yeah,
created
yeah.
that
For
to
sure.
the point
Nah,
that
for
it,
sure.
it comes to that.
And
you
like
know what I mean?
speaking of the people in my life, like when I got married, 2 years ago in our little small wedding that we did, he was there, of course. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
he's family to me.
That's cool.
But yeah, so she's seen me that time, right? But I needed that to happen. You know what I mean? And like I needed to do a more honest and thorough fourth step that I skipped on. I didn't know at the time until this happened, and I certainly realized my sobriety 4 months after that situation was stronger than the 12 or 13 months that I had when it happened. You know what I mean? Because I had that experience of, you can't do this, half measures avail us nothing type of a situation.
100%.
So you were sober just about a year?
Yeah, just
And
about
then
a
you
year.
Okay. Okay.
And my relapse was a one night thing. Not that it matters for those who it's a
Right.
run or anything, but it was just enough. I had to do that humbling, go to my home group at the 8744 Clubhouse in Levittown,
Nice.
And
Yeah,
pick
go
up my
shout
24.
out.
That
And listen,
24-hour claim.
you got a year over in Levittown. Like you're almost an old timer in certain
are,
meetings,
yeah.
Oh my
right? So
God,
like
yeah,
that was,
of course.
and I was again like back to the image. Like I was in service, right? Like I didn't, I needed to have that happen, and I'm so now fortunate that it did. But yeah, so thankfully my son, to your question, like, he never needs to see me like that.
That's right.
My family gets to enjoy me being back in their lives. My brother and I have a closer relationship, which as you can tell is very important to me. He's got 3 kids and now I have a kid, and like we get to share that season of parenting life together. And yeah, I mean, it's just, and then professionally, like I get to work in a profession that I love, where I have people that I've met, right? And I'm privileged to get to do not just things like this, but like really get to work in a sense of purpose. You know what I mean? And knowing what hat I'm wearing in the role I'm in, right? I have a professional hat, I have a personal hat, and I've learned through experience as well as through trial and error, as well as through the experiences of people who've been doing it longer than me. Don't mix hats. Don't go into a professional conversation with a personal hat, and definitely don't go into, a personal situation with a professional hat. But yeah, I mean, that's been
I
for
learned that
me.
one early on, bro.
Yeah.
Maybe like year 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't be 12-stepping guys
Right.
in the treatment. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Mhm.
It has to be like very much like a business
Yep.
healthcare relationship.
Yep.
And that's totally fine. So now I live in a place where when the 12-step hat does come on,
Yeah.
because it does,
Sure.
because that is at the end of the day like my primary,
Right.
like I'm an alcoholic,
Yeah.
recovered alcoholic before anything else. The second I interact with a guy on a professional basis, I want AMA block anyone.
Yeah.
I'll be like, get the fuck out.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I'll be like, it's time for you to go.
Yeah.
You're not ready
Yeah.
yet. Don't call, you know what to do when
Yeah.
it's time to come back.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I had
Yeah.
had to separate the two.
I got sober
Yeah.
in the same area that I got my first role. So for me, it was literally, and I went back to college because I'm an alcoholic who wants to continue to overachieve.
Right.
So finally,
You're the American boy, dude.
Finally
Yeah,
graduating
yeah.
with my undergrad, it was like, all right, let's roll it. Because I used to coach high school football. That was my goal, was to teach history and coach football. by the time this all happened, like I wasn't going to teach anymore. So it was like undergrad degree in history would have been good just to like have the degree. But I knew I wanted to work in more of a helping capacity. I didn't know that would be in treatment. So when I finished my undergrad, I rolled right into a master's degree in social work from Temple
that's
that
cool.
I graduated with a year ago. So I have a few hats. And yeah, I mean, in that spirit that Sam said, like I was going to meetings in the same town that I was working in, right? So like I'd have to have that. We talked about this before we jumped on. Like I'd have the young man or young lady that I would see at 10 a.m. that day at the center, you know, and then come to me after my home group. And I would tell them like, yo, it's not the same guy.
Right.
Like I won't tell you something
I'm just
in the
Joe
center
right
that
now.
I will hear. Right.
Right.
So,
Sure.
you know, and I attribute that to like, again, the experience of others. I attribute that to, you know, good leadership that I've had the privilege of working under. And like you said, right, it is a business. It's a business like anything else. And I've learned how to ethically do what I do, what we do, right? Like I've learned how to ethically do what we do and know that you can do both, right? You can effectively operate a business. You can make a living to support your family on, and you can also know that you're doing it with the correct intentions of just wanting to help people.
Yeah.
Sure.
But again, I too can recognize when I'm beginning to, you know, blur those lines, right? And I take a step back and I forgive myself and I validate myself for having done it because it's a human condition to want to help people. But I'm very quick to remind myself, like, you know, when I'm in a meeting and I'm starting to hear something that sounds a little bit like I want to kind of, you know, go up to someone and ask if they need help that's outside the scope of AA, it's like, all right, I need to bring it back to the primary purpose of
100%.
me being
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's cool. So you're in the industry now, obviously. You got your master's degree in social work from Temple. Terrific. What are you doing with that master's degree right now?
I'd say I
Like
help-
a little bit more specifically, I guess.
Yeah. So
you know.
I work in business development. I work as a marketer that markets the programs that I have the privilege of working on, representing and working for. But I also get to work with outside agencies and stuff and outside companies. What I find is that my master's degree in social work helps me to better clinically triage people in real time, right? So, and it helps to have some credentials, and, you know, I'm studying for my license to be a licensed social worker because I do feel like it's important to have that sense of accountability in what I do. I think we all know that not everyone does that role with ethics and morals in mind, obviously.
Sure.
And it's, you know, they got to sleep at night, whether they can or not. It's not my problem. But I find that being a clinically trained marketer, right? I would say that I work in kind of a non-traditional social work role.
And you're like pretty hands-on at your place too.
I am, yeah. And that's the other thing.
You're
is
much more involved.
I am,
Your
right.
role is not that of a typical
Correct.
BD person.
Correct.
Right,
So
that's
I
right.
get to not only triage externally and make sure that we're facilitating appropriate referrals and, you know, and listen, like a good marketer can do what I do, right? Like a good marketer as yourself, right? Like you've been doing it long enough where you know certain questions to ask that you didn't have to go to school to learn to ask, right?
Correct,
You just
yeah.
learned how to do it.
Just hung around
Exactly.
long enough.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
to
Right.
be
So
honest.
time will experience, but exactly. Like I've gotten to facilitate actual groups and I get to run groups. I get to, you know, take a caseload if I needed to, and I have not needed to, but if I needed to, I'm able to do that. So yeah, I mean, my goal is eventually, you know, like a leadership role. And that's why, because I almost pivoted. Like I didn't apply to grad school to be an MSW before I worked. Like I wasn't even working in the field yet. It happened almost at the exact same time. I got hired in an admissions department like 2 months after I was accepted into Temple's grad school. So people think I went back after I started working
Right.
because the timelines are so, you know, kind of synced up, but it wasn't. So I almost pulled out of MSW when I got into the field and someone had identified like, you could probably do the marketing thing that we do. I said, oh, okay. So I'm like close to, you know, pulling out and going back to school to get an MBA or something like that. And I went to a social worker who was a executive director of a really well reputable program. And I'm like, what do you think? He was like, I think more marketers could benefit from having clinical training and
Of
stuff like
course.
that. You know what I mean? So he
Yeah.
was like, whatever you decide to do, he says, I think you're going to be successful for reasons outside of what degree you have, or
Correct.
letters after your last name.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I stuck with it, because now what I do is, like Sam said, more hands-on, where I'm able to, again, back to like the idea of hats, right? Like I know when I'm in a operations meeting and we're talking KPIs,
Well,
right?
that's
like,
my question.
Yep.
Always,
so like
right?
yeah,
We really get into this messy place where, like, you know, when I put my work hat on, like, I'm about business.
Sure.
That's because the first word of my job title
business.
is business.
Right, of course.
That's the only thing I'm here to do.
Yeah.
I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said to you before, like my I'm really just a recovered alcoholic.
Yeah.
But
Right.
when I
However-
work,
Yeah.
my job title is business. So
Right.
when I come
Sure.
to the table at the organization I represent, I'm talking to
Sure.
operations, admissions,
Yeah.
clinical, and I'm the business. And we all conflict.
Right.
We
Yeah,
all want to have this
Yeah.
really nice looking microphone that is louder than everyone else's,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
But to be able to occupy two of those chairs at
Yeah.
that table is going to make the cohesiveness of all those departments a lot better.
Yeah.
Because your voice accounts for two things that usually conflict.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that in itself is
It's
worth its weight in
advantageous.
gold,
It's
man. And from my
advantageous, for sure.
perspective,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
that's worth its weight in gold.
It's
dude.
advantageous. I think I still have and know that I still have a lot to learn in what table are we sitting at, what conversation are we discussing, and what hat therefore is the one most appropriate to be wearing. And I attribute the awareness of that learning again to good leadership, but also to I get to just remind myself, like, you know, as much as my 27-year-old wife break my balls that I'm 34, like I'm still young, right? So like I'm in an industry where, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, like I'm in an industry where it looks like others have this at times seemingly like meteoric rise up the ranks of positions and roles and salaries and comp.
Titles.
And I'm just in
Yeah.
titles and I'm
There's
just
so
like,
many titles in this industry. It's not
Brother.
even
And
funny.
it's
I almost
crazy,
wish
right?
I had no title.
and it's
to be
almost like,
honest.
so again, the human and the alcoholic in me is just like them, right?
Yeah.
Like and very
Always.
judgmental.
How did
but
they
then
get that?
exactly right? And then the you know, again, thankfully to the people I keep around me, both personally and professionally, I'm reminded like, no, my time's coming, and that's fine. But I still have a lot to learn, right? So like to that point, Sam, like I do very much benefit from being what I though know that I need to learn is, you know, what do I need to be cued into? You know what I'm saying? Like, do I need to be, because again, there is a way to do both. There is a way to not sacrifice on the quality and the ethics of care while still operating a profitable business. right?
Correct. I
And-
couldn't agree more.
and
Like,
there has
to
honestly,
be-
it's just the egos that
It
conflict.
is 100%.
It's nothing outside of the egos.
No.
The two can come together seamlessly.
And we've seen it.
If people agree. So when you have a guy that
Right.
speaks the language of
Yeah.
both sides of the street, very advantageous.
Well, and that's why it's almost like I can never, and I don't know if you meant to kind of paint the picture in the way that you did, but I love the idea, and this is what leadership I know is in organizations. I love the idea of all of those heads being at one table.
Yeah, of course.
Because how
Well,
many
they
times
are.
are a
What do
lot
you
of those
mean?
are they individual? Well, like just in case, like if there's a lot of times where like, let's say, you know, someone in the marketing side is 80% external and only 20% at the same table with clinical and everything
Yeah.
else, right? Like you want more heads, even if it does arise some contention, it's at least everyone on the same page or at
Yeah.
least presented with the same opportunity. So when I think of myself being able to your point, occupy two seats, it's almost like that's why somebody needs to be behind me being like, nope. Like you answered a business question clinically,
Right.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like that's
Yeah.
again something that I've learned is, and that's what I love about the field is like the collaborative spirit that it is, you know. And I've also, you know, had the privilege of again working for whom I've worked for and in the positions that I've had, where I've only had thankfully good experiences. Yeah, but
You've worked for good providers.
I have
Always,
you
yeah.
know, and
Because there's a lot of bad ones.
there
There's
is,
a lot of
yeah,
bad
for
ones.
sure. And
Without
I'm
a
glad
doubt.
I didn't know that when I got in. I'm glad that the company that hired me took a chance on me and trained me in the way that they did. And it's helped me, it's prepared me. But I think it's back to reputation, right? And, you know, it's like my reputation is one. It's funny because being around here saying this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. If I go to a Wawa around here, someone's expectation or reputation of me may be very, very different,
Oh,
depending
yeah.
on when the last time was that I saw them, right? But something I take very much and pride myself on is like, I don't have to look over my shoulder in where I live now. That's hugely freedom providing for me, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I saw a girl I went to high school with at the grocery store last night, actually.
No way.
She was like,
probably shocked to see you in the way
Same
Shocked to
you are.
see you
stuff.
still
And I
alive.
was like, yeah.
And that's amazing. And that's
Yeah.
amazing. But
She
like
was
my
like,
wife is
wow.
reminded of it when we drive around here because she'll see me go into trances and she's just like, where are you? I'm like, you know, overdosed in that bathroom or you know, a
Right.
friend of mine used to live in that neighborhood, you know, and like, and you know, so it is difficult. But again, back to like the idea of reputation, like my professional reputation is one that I am proud of, but more importantly, like I'm in an area and an environment that's conducive for me to progress and move forward. You know,
Cool.
My sobriety's been great, but I'm no longer grateful for where I'm not. Like I'm grateful for where I'm going.
Sure.
And I don't think in sobriety, everyone kind of reaches that point. I think when someone's, you know, been sober a little while and all they're telling me is how grateful they are for where they're not at anymore, it's like, absolutely, right? Like, let's always
That's
be
always
grateful. That,
important.
right. But like, if that's the case, then my gratitude exists in the rearview mirror. And like,
Right.
where am I moving forward to? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like,
I
for
try
me,
to
it's,
stay more
it's
in the
trying
present.
to, right.
You
Yeah.
know what I
And that's
mean?
true too. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe because of my age, but
well, that's true.
I kind of try to stay more in the present.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah, and there's definitely a way to and I feel like that's
But you
where
can
the grounding
plan for the
is.
future,
Absolutely,
especially
yeah.
at 34.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yep. And that's the exciting, you know. But again, like I spoke. I just thought of it when I was coming here today because I passed the Atkinson Memorial Park where the Gloucester County
Oh, yeah.
opioid event is. Well, I was the keynote speaker at the Camden County one 3 years ago, and you want to talk about a full circle moment, you know?
Yeah,
like
of
this
course.
this was after the relapse that I had, you know, but this was like literally in the town that I was born in Blackwood. And I just remember thinking, like, you know, how fortunate am I to be here?
Yeah.
Like they roll 300 plus names, and
Oh, for overdose?
Overdose.
Yeah.
301.
easily. And like honestly, 30 to 40 of them are people that I knew, got high with, went to school with, like.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's a tough event for me because there is this sense of a survivor's guilt, but also this like
But
I
there's a
see
reason
lot
that you're
of-
here.
Well, that's the thing, right? I
Yeah.
see a lot of mothers of friends of mine whose, you know, sons have passed and like and daughters have passed, and you know they just give us this embrace of like, you know, almost live in the memory of my son or daughter so that they aren't just remembered for overdose. And it's just like
Right.
it's such a it's an honor, you know, like it really is.
Sure.
You know, I say all the time, like I totaled cars and got new ones. I lost jobs and got new opportunities. I thought I lost the love of my life, and here I am married to the woman I never thought I'd deserve. So you can lose things and get them back, right? But like life is the only thing we truly get one of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like just thankfully that despite my road and how it's been, you know, I'm privileged enough to still be here on August 1st, 2025, doing this with you two.
Yeah, man. Can't believe it's August 1st. Where'd the summer go?
I know.
Summer flew by. Dude, it rained and then it was hot. Now it's
That's
raining
also-
again.
I love it. It's
What
like
do you mean?
68 degrees outside.
Now
right
today
now.
makes
We're
no
recording
sense. It was
this.
I was
Yeah.
sweating out of everything in my body yesterday.
Yep.
I put a long
Today
sleeve
you got a
shirt
long
on,
sleeve
bro.
on.
What's going on?
Love it.
So you've come like a long way,
Sure.
like all of us have.
Sure, absolutely.
When you were out there in the thick of it,
Yeah.
did you ever think you would have a master's in social
Nope.
work?
Absolutely not.
I mean, that's insane.
Ab-
You know what's
Absolutely
funny?
not.
Does using even ego American Boy Joe,
Yeah.
like the guy who was like, did you even think
Yeah.
you would want a master's in social
Right.
work?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's funny. 'cause,
Like the
You-
kicker,
you
Joe
look
the
more like
kicker.
an MBA
yeah,
guy.
yeah. It's yeah.
You know?
It's almost it's not a conflicting question. It's a straightforward question. But admittedly, I always had this again, like this dichotomous thinking of like, I could die from this, but I also could survive this. You know what I mean? Like I had this thought of I could go back to. I always knew I was like smart. I used to resent the hell out of colleges. You know what I'm saying? Like if I drove past Rowan University, especially Rowan, right, where all this went from. But like, let's say I'm up along the main line and I'm driving down and I'm driving through Villanova.
Yeah.
Seeing college kids with their book bags on would anger me because I'm like, how are you
'Cause you
doing
blew
that?
it.
How are you doing
Yeah.
that? How do you have the freedom to go use drugs and drink right now and you're not? And not only are you not, you're going to class and you're on time.
Not only are you not, you don't want
You
to.
don't want to.
You're not
You
even
don't
thinking
want
about it.
to.
It's crazy
I
how
know.
much my alcoholic
It blows my
mentality.
mind.
And I love that I married the woman that I did, who's a smart, incredibly intelligent, far smarter than myself, registered nurse who graduated from Purdue in Indiana, because we have those thoughts together where she's just like, again, like first time she had a glass of wine in front of me at a restaurant, drank 80% of it and
Yeah,
walked
and
away.
left
And I'm
it
like,
there. My wife.
How
does
do you do that?
what are
It's
you
crazy.
doing?
Right,
You know what
exactly.
I mean?
I look
So-
at it. I'll be like, you should finish that.
You should
know what I mean?
finish that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
She-
yeah.
oh my god, I
Have
love
another
asking her.
one.
I'm like, "Are you gonna have 2 glasses tonight?"
Yeah,
She's like,
yeah,
"Why do you
yeah.
like?" You
Why
know
do
what I
you
mean?
care?
Because I'm an alcoholic.
Because I
But-
obsessed,
So
dude. What
I
do you
never
mean?
thought I'd have the MSW. I never thought I'd finish the degree. And I think a lot of that was just because, like, I genuinely, I always felt like I've done construction, I've done the restaurant business, I've worked in every capacity you could think of, and never did any of them work. Done retail, sales, B2B, you name it, right? I never could get out of my own way with my addiction. You know, once my addiction was out of the way, I've proven to myself, as we all do, right, in whatever capacity and degree. I've proven myself since getting sober. The only limitations I have are the ones I put on myself.
That's right.
You know,
You never know what you're capable of.
no idea.
So you just put your mind to it.
No idea.
You know.
Yeah. Now I remember the moment it like hit me. Like it was. I was at the gym. I was probably 6 months sober or something, and I just remember feeling this feeling of like freedom and appreciation. And I texted someone who was my sponsor at the time, and I was just like, I think I just had one of those, like, you read on page 567 in the big book about spiritual experiences and the difference between those. I said, I'm like, I think I just had one of them that you'd call of the educational variety, right?
Yeah.
Like it says on 567. And
The
he was
educational
like,
variety.
The educational
Yeah,
variety.
I remember.
Yep.
Variety.
And he's like, all he said was, "You're getting it," you know. And I
You're
was.
So it
finally-
hits you out of
yeah,
I was.
nowhere.
That's what
you
it
just
did.
have like
Really
this
did.
newfound. I know
Yep.
what you're talking about.
It really did.
You'll be like somewhere. It's like, you know, when like nostalgia like
Yep.
overcomes you when you
Yeah.
do drive past a park where
Especially
you have
around
good
here.
and bad
Yep.
memories,
Yep.
right? But
Yeah.
like just the differences that you
Yeah.
feel, the selflessness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and when it hits you like a ton of bricks. You
Yeah.
could break down in tears
Right.
just
Yep. That's
just in the middle of the grocery
100%,
store out of nowhere. People
100%,
think you're out of
you
your
know?
fucking mind.
Yeah,
Think you're
and
crazy,
you are a
but
little bit compared to
'cause
what
you
you're
are.
used
Compared to
to.
everyone
Right.
else around you, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Without a doubt.
deflating
Yeah.
the ego, which is recovering,
Yeah.
is one of the most emotionally jarring, but
Yeah.
also like empowering
Sure.
moments
Yeah.
ever. But it's
Yeah.
a process. You
It
know
is.
what I mean?
No, it is, you know, and it's the most beautiful and tragic one that you can go through.
100%.
You know, and it really just, for me, it just took being around the right people, having the right opportunity, and then just being ready, you know? So I agree with you when you said earlier, like you could tell someone like, you're not ready yet. And that's true. And I
Yeah.
wasn't for a long time.
It's just not time.
And then when I was, it was a true sense of readiness, because I think the lie we tell ourselves all the time, especially those of us in the field, right? It's like we'll have that climb. I know what I got to do. It's like the number one lie we'll tell ourselves.
it's
it's like,
so
what if
funny.
you didn't?
The longer I stay sober, the less
The
I say
less
that.
I know what to do.
The less I say that. Dude.
100%. It's like
For
that,
sure.
but that's the lie that like we see and that I told myself. Like because I thought if I heard others regurgitated enough, like sponsor meetings, home group service, blah, like that it would just take. And I'm like, I have no idea. So that's what
Right.
I tell people. Like, I know what I need to do. I'm like, what if I told you didn't? Would you believe me? You know
If
what
I
I
told
mean?
you
Like,
that I didn't.
right,
You
and
know what I
I'm,
mean?
I'm
That's
a
what
little
I'm
further
saying,
along this
dude.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
like,
if you're in the thick of your addiction,
Right.
you think knowing what you have to do is basically just stop doing
right.
it. But you need to do a lot more
Exactly,
than that.
yeah.
It's not just putting it down.
Right. It's like, oh, today you just learned that you know what you need to do. But apparently for the last, for me, 10 years, you didn't know. It's like, no, you did. You lacked the ability to, right?
Exactly.
And like, we've not mentioned God on this episode, but
I've
like, I'm
tried
an
not to,
AA
yeah.
guy. And like,
Yeah.
but that's like, for me, that's what it was. Like having a true second and third step. I was the typical AA guy who said like, okay, step one, I have 2 DUIs, 12 overdoses, been to treatment 12 times. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. Sponsor was like, well, that doesn't make you one, right? So like,
Yeah.
I was the guy getting to the steps and being like, one,
One,
definitely
two.
one of them. 2,
Yeah.
raised Catholic, no issues with God. 3, I'll do a penance.
Yeah.
4, let's get to writing. And like
Yeah.
my sponsor,
He had little boxes next to
Right.
the steps, ready to rip
100%,
checks.
100%.
You're like, they give me the first
100%.
three.
Right, exactly. That was like, that's like,
As
you're
a Catholic
spotted those.
myself,
Right.
they kind of give you the
You're
first
spotted
three.
the first 3,
dude,
right,
But
yeah.
one, even just one
Oh my
now,
God,
9
dude.
years in.
Oh my God.
The
It's the
weight
weight.
of one and how the first step and the
Yeah.
word unmanageable
Yeah.
materializes in my head
Yep.
today
Yep.
is heavy as all
Yeah.
shit. Dude.
My home group is a big book step breakdown. So not a big book breakdown. Like we don't go line for line. We
Right.
do,
It's not step study, is it?
it is and it isn't, honestly. It's all out of the big book.
No, dude, step study.
No,
is-
so
and not
it's-
to talk bad on step study,
Yeah.
but like I walked into a step study meeting once and they were like, "Are you on step 4 with
Yeah,
your big
no,
book
it's-
step study sponsor?" I'm
it's
like,
not
"No,"
that,
and they
no.
were like, "Well, you should leave."
Definitely
and I was
not.
like,
No,
"Okay."
it's not that.
My
It's,
God.
Yeah.
And we're in, and I'm my home group's still in Levittown. I'm still in that area where I got sober, so I love it because I'm seeing a lot of recovery house guys who need to be
Yeah.
exposed to the book and less speaker meetings. I can relate or I can't relate. I don't fucking care. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
This is the book. It's outlasted all of us, and will continue to. So my home group is intentionally a big book step breakdown where I say it's the longest commitment you can have in Bucks County
Right.
because you're there for 2 weeks on step 1, 2 weeks on step 4, 2 weeks on
that's
step
the-
12.
Like the same style of the meeting that we had up in
Probably.
Bridgeport.
Yep. Probably.
We tried
Based
to do
off
one
of
a
what
week,
I
but
listened to. Exactly.
sometimes
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was
Sometimes
two,
it
yeah.
runs over, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So but it's all out of the book, and I'm
But
huge.
you just read the first 164. Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
And again,
yeah.
not line for line, but like then two people share it and they share on their experiences on that step. And it's a meeting of they have it, the floor's opened up, they have it, the floor's opened up. Like it's a very back and forth. But again, like and this is no shot at speaker meetings, right? But like if all I did was go and listen to a different speaker every week, like it'd be easy for me with a full life of a career and a son and all this stuff. Like I'm not the best morning devotions guy. I'm
Right.
not the guy sitting in a comfortable chair with, the 24-hour a day book. That's other people. It's not my thing.
You mean like big two-steppers?
Well,
Not to call us
no,
throw
but
shots
like whatever
out,
it
but, like,
works, right? Like
yeah.
it's not my thing. Nor is like so like for me, my home group serves as that ensure that I never get out of the book. Even like right now, I'm not taking anybody through, right? And like I don't
Yeah.
feel a type of way about that.
That's
admittedly,
okay.
You know what I mean? But it is because I'm willing to. I still put my hand up.
It'll
Still
come when it
willing to
comes.
sponsor.
I mean, let's
and
be
honestly,
honest.
I'm putting it out there. Someone's going to likely ask me this week or weekend because that's kind of how it happens when I mention that.
You want to talk about percentages, though? How many guys ask you to sponsor them? How many make it to 4, and then how many make it to 12?
Well,
it's
that's
a
true.
low number.
Yeah,
dude.
no, I've had a few people make it to 12 only, and I've had a lot of people ask me, but it's like, yeah, that's like,
That's a
but that's
crazy
like
thing, bro.
that's the AA that I love. Like
I think I've only taken like 6 or 7 guys all the way
All
to
the way
12.
through?
Yeah, and I've
It's-
probably
it-
sponsored 100 guys.
Yeah.
you know what I
It
mean.
mirrors getting sober in itself.
Yeah.
Look at getting sober, like let's say today, there's 100 of us. 1 year from today, there'll only be about 70 of us.
Yeah.
3 years from today, there'll only be about 8 of us
Yeah.
that are still sober.
Yeah.
So you look at the step work. How many people have you taken through
Oh, it's the
doing it
same.
100 times?
Yeah.
Right.
By 3 years out, you've only taken probably
Yeah.
a dozen.
How many
Yeah.
people want to get sober? How many people stay? How many people want to start the
Exactly.
steps?
Oh,
How many
and there's
people
like
see
that
them
lollygag
through?
at 9.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
yeah,
a heavy
yeah.
yo. If you hit
Yeah.
4, like listen, you do a fearless and
4 is
honest
hard.
fifth. You do a fearless and honest 5th step, I think, and you have the moment that
Yeah.
at least I know that I
Sure.
had. Like that was my real
Mine
conception
too.
of a power
Mine
greater than
too.
myself was
Mine
a
too.
real 5th step, right?
Yeah.
But then you get to 9.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you're like, all right, your sponsor really should be like, all right, go make a few and then let's finish this thing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I agree. That's what
Right?
I've done.
Yeah, for sure.
I've made my sponsees take the first main 3 of their list.
Correct.
They continue to work on them as we all do. But yeah, no, my experience too. Like my liberating moment was when after my relapse did do that fearless and and thorough 4th step. I was living with that young lady, and my history is very checkered with a lot of infidelity and a lot of really ugly traits that existed in myself about that too. And my sponsor at the time was like, "You need to stop messing around. Like, if you want to be the white picket fence father and husband, like shape the fuck up and do it." Right?
The
He's like,
American,
you can't.
dude, he's the American boy.
Right,
That's
like
him.
he's
Yeah.
like, you can't say you want that and then be like stepping out on the person you're spending your life with, right? So he's like, if you don't want that, that's fine. Let her go, right? So he's like, after my 5th, he's like, you don't need to go sit for an hour. He said, I want you to really meditate on if you want that life or not. And this is another one of those spiritual, awakening.
Sure.
I pulled up to my apartment at the time, genuinely like knowing that in my head, he's like, you need to figure out if you want this life with her or if you don't want this life with her and you just want to be a bachelor. You need to figure that out. And I'm thinking about it. And as I am, like my puppy sticks his head from the window that we had on the 2nd floor of our apartment. And like that to me was like, she's in there, he's in there, my life's in there. Like, this is what I want. From that day, I got off social media. I never messed around again like I used to.
That's
I
cool.
had 2 phones at the time, and she'd be able to check, I'd be in the shower and then my phone ring. I'm like, hey, who is that? You know what I mean? Like that type of freedom, right? It's got nothing to do with alcohol, but it's got everything to do with alcoholism.
I was
You know what
gonna love that. Yeah,
It's got
so
everything to
true.
do with alcoholism.
100%.
That sense
Absolutely.
of freedom for me is, and not just me, again, it's always about me, is my wife, right? Like my wife to know, like she had to go, her grandmother passed away. She had to go back to Indiana last weekend. She did not, I mean, I'm sure she did, but like she didn't have to worry about me being home alone with
Right.
our son
Right.
for 3 nights. First time ever, just him and I. That, you know what I mean? Like that.
How was that? That was tough, huh?
my son's awesome, but
Yeah.
it's exhausting.
It's
you know what
so
I mean?
tiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like when she works on Saturdays, I have him from the time she's a nurse, so she works 12s. I have him from the time he wakes up
yeah.
to the time he goes to sleep. So I'm a little used to it. But yeah, I mean, that type of freedom, right? Like that's nowhere. So in the big book, it says, I think on page 17, like these are the solutions, the realization where that these were the solutions to all of my problems. Game changer for me. Game changer for me, right? Like knowing that these steps are the solutions to all, not just my drinking and drug problem,
All my problems.
all of my problems. It's like, I don't need to go and try and be the perfect husband, the perfect son. If I just try to be the best I can be in the outlines of the 12 spiritual principles, and it's not to sound like it's cultish, right? But it's like,
Right.
that's what I've learned. If I'm squared and on spiritual ground and I'm taking care of what I need to, and I'm in service, right? God does not let me be a shitty husband, doesn't let me be a poor employee, doesn't let me be a bad father. So I don't have to try and be all those things. I just really got to try and focus on being the best of one thing, and the rest of it just kind of works out.
Yep.
And it's
Yeah.
like
That's
such
right.
a freedom, liberating feeling to not be so overwhelmed with trying to be so many different things.
The most,
Yeah,
the
that's
best
right.
part about it all is like, and I don't know if this will happen to you, but it certainly happened to me over the course of 9 years. Like, dude, I grow away from that shit,
Yeah.
and then I do dumb shit. I do dumb, self-centered,
Yeah.
dishonest, alcoholic shit, and then my life will explode in
Yeah.
some capacities, whether it's in my marriage or however. And then I'm like, oh, that's right.
Right.
I'm still really sick,
And I
I'll
don't
come back
need to
around.
do
You
that.
gotta
Yeah.
do it
Right.
again.
Right
I'm like,
back
oh
in.
my god,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
God
right.
this
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
works, dude.
Yeah, right.
How did I
Oh, it
forget?
is the solution to all
How
of my
did I
problems.
forget again? And
Yeah.
that's how I
Grow
know
away
I'm still
from it.
sick, because I
Yep.
continue to grow away. Life will
Yep.
get good. I'll have another kid.
Yeah.
I'll get a new job, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Life shows up.
Yeah.
Grow a little bit further away from AA.
Yeah.
Still act alcoholically.
Yeah.
God willing, I don't ever drink.
Sure.
I haven't,
Right.
knock on wood.
Sure.
But
But think about the people that do grow apart from AA or NA or any 12-step program. These are the people we see that relapse with 10 years,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
5 years.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
for sure.
So you have to keep your
The last
head
funeral I was at
in
2
it.
weeks ago was one of those situations.
Really?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, shit
It's
freaks
very
me out.
sad when you see a guy with or a girl with double-digit sobriety years.
Throw it away.
And they
Yeah.
go back, and it's like,
Yeah.
what did you think?
Right.
You know, these are the things that we talk about and almost preach
Yeah.
that you're never going to be okay
Right.
Yeah.
with it.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. My sponsor drilled into my head. It's not that I don't want to drink again. It's not that I hope that I don't drink again. It's that I will drink again.
Absolutely.
Unless I'm doing these steps and
That's right.
I'm staying plugged in like this.
So let me ask you, what kind of advice do you have for anyone out there? Because we're going to wrap it up now. What kind of advice do you have for anyone out there that's maybe about to go into treatment or maybe just got out of treatment?
Take a breath. Take
Just step
take
back
a
and-
breath.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
I like that.
Oh my God. I can remember that breath of like, and I just put someone into a treatment program last week who was, he fought me so much on doing it. And I hope the motivation sticks around, but he called his mom yesterday and just sounds so relieved that he's not running. Right.
Good for
So
him.
it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, man, take a breath. I tell everybody that because that's what's available, right? Like, don't get so caught up in I have to put, if I was worried about putting 12 years worth of my addictive life back on track in the first 6 months of my time sober, which is what I did.
You fall
right?
flat on your face.
I'd fall
yeah.
flat on my face,
And
right?
you
So it's
did,
like,
yeah.
you know, I don't want to give advice. I don't want to be an example. Because I know I'm flawed at the end of the day to
course.
such a degree.
Of
Yeah.
But I will say that what I hope that I offer as proof of what works is the program that I found that saved my life, known as Alcoholics Anonymous, but also the realization that I could think that I'm so far behind progress and process and all this shit, and it's just not true. Like, if you ask me now, 4 years into this, like with the life that I have today, do I see the 12 years that I spent prior to getting to this point as like time wasted? I wish I didn't do it, right? But I don't see it as time wasted,
It
right?
made
No.
you, it
I'm
makes
34,
you who you are now.
exactly, a
you
little
know?
later on in the process, maybe than some others. Maybe I'd have a couple more children already now too, but who knows, right? Like, either way, I'm so privileged to have a woman to share my life with, a son to be able to raise alongside of her. I have a home, I have a career, I have friends, purpose, family. I have everything I could need.
Yep.
You
right?
also got nothing but
That's-
time, dude.
And I still have nothing but time.
You got
That,
nothing.
that's
100%.
called that's called being rich.
So I think agree.
Yeah.
Agree. So that's why I think my advice would be take a breath, right? Because if I'm just going into treatment or getting out of treatment, I think I need to go finish my degree and get a career
Right.
job and
Try
find
to
the
do
love of my
everything in a
life and
day.
do everything. If I have a dating app before I have a big book, I'm off to a bad start. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like, and I
definitely.
know the reality is in today's world, like that's a lot of what the sobriety is like, unfortunately, not to generalize, but it's true. So take a breath. You
Yep.
have time.
It's good
You'll be
advice.
fine.
I actually like that a lot.
Just
It's
allow
simple, but
yourself
deep,
the
you know?
process for sure, because we know
Yeah.
what that breath feels
Oh,
like.
dude, yeah.
It's the exact opposite.
I
of
still take it
what
every
my mind-
morning, you know what I
100%.
mean?
But it's
Yeah.
the exact opposite of what I think I need to do. Right? I know what I need to do. You don't, because you
Right.
think you need to go and put the world back. Right? In reality, you just need to take a breath.
Yeah, you know, you don't. I always tell people you don't ruin your life in a month. You certainly don't fix it in a month.
That's it.
You try to go back. It takes years
For sure.
You know.
Maybe, right. Sometimes quickly,
Sometimes
sometimes
quicker,
slowly, right?
sometimes
and that's what even for the friends of mine that I've gotten sober with who would definitely say that my life quicker than slower, right? In the promises. But even my friends who would say, "Yep, I'm definitely the slower than the quicker," they're not any less fortunate,
Yeah,
right?
who-
And
Not
they
at
know
all.
that.
Yeah,
They know
absolutely.
that.
Exactly.
And that's like,
Good
to
for
me,
them.
that's how I know it works. Is like, okay, you could say that my life may be quicker than slower was put back together in such a way, but I have friends who are as near and dear to me as own family, and they would consider themselves maybe on the slower end, whether it's job related, significant other related, whatever, right? Spiritual progress even, and yet still they think, but still, what a gift this is that I have. And I'm like, that's exactly why they are what they are as far as the promises.
No doubt about it. Well, listen, brother, we really enjoyed your story and
Thank you.
Really
having you
appreciate
on.
you coming out,
Yeah.
brother.
It was
No, I
pretty
appreciate
awesome
it.
today.
Thank you.
Really, really, I
You
appreciate
guys do a
it.
great job.
Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, we're Tenacious Recovery, the podcast, and we're glad you were able to come on. My name's Vinny. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
I'm Sam. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
I'm an alcoholic and an addict. My name is Joey.
Joey, my man, we appreciate you coming on. God willing, we'll see everybody soon.